Morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Wednesday, March 15, 2017.
Commissioner Rivas, Repenning, James, Davis, and Jacinto are present. President James, we have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning. Craig Shaw, Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning. Michael Simpson, LA Sanitation.
Good morning. Udi Jimenez, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning. Kimberly Fitzpatrick, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning. Ruben Flamenco, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning. Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. Excuse me about that. President James, we do not have any speaker cards under general public comment. We also do not have any commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section. We did receive speaker cards on items number 19, 20, and 21. Also, for the record, we did receive an email correspondence coming in for item number 19, which will be distributed to all commissioners this morning.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll close general public comment as well as our Neighborhood Council category of commentary. Before we open the bids, though, we have a number of assessment hearings for the Bureau of Street Lighting, Council Districts 1, 6, 12, 13, 5, and 10. Item numbers 2 through 16 with council hearing dates all set for March 22nd, 2017. Mr. Flamenco on items 2 through 16.
Ruben Flamenco, Bureau of Street Lighting. Items 2 through 5 pertain to lighting districts which we are creating in conjunction with private development projects. Item 6 pertains to a lighting district which we are creating in conjunction with the Bureau of Street Lighting initiated LED conversion project. Only public parcels are impacted. No private parcels are included in this lighting district. Items 7 through 16 pertain to lighting districts which we are creating in conjunction with the Bureau of Street Lighting initiated community development block grant project in the Van Nuys community. Ballots for items 2 to 6 were mailed on January 18, 2017. Ballots for items 7 through 16 were mailed on January 25, 2017. Ballots for items 2 to 16 must be received by the City Clerk's office by next Wednesday, March 22nd. We have not received any objections to date on items 2 through 16. We are requesting for the board to adopt and forward items 2 to 16 forthwith to City Council.
Items 2 through 16. Any questions on 2 through 16? I don't have any questions on 2 through 16. Commissioner Rivas has made a motion that we adopt agenda items 2 through 16, seconded by Commissioners Davis and Jacinto. Any objection? Without objection, we will adopt agenda item numbers 2 through 16. Any issue taking 2 through 16 forthwith? All right, we'll take items 2 through 16 forthwith. Thank you. Agenda item number 1, bids for the Channel 35 television studio and Pico House seismic separation 461 through 424 North Main Street. Mr. Campos, and we have on secondly for Central Business District Adaptive Traffic Control System. The bids for Channel 35 were continued, weren't they, to April?
That is correct. The board elected and adopted a continuation for the bid opening from March 15th to April 5th.
Right, so that's April 5th. So today is the ATSAC system.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So the only bid that we would open up for today is for the Central Business District Adaptive Traffic Control System. The city has estimated this project to be at $3,111,990, and this is in Council District 1, 9, and 14. We will begin by opening up the bids now. The first bid received for this project is from Comet Electric, Inc. for a total bid amount of $3,833,589 even. That's $3,833,589 from Comet Electric Incorporated. For the record, line item number 91 and line item number 94 appear to be whited out, but it has been initialed by the contractor. And there is a number in those line items. The second and final bid received for the second project listed on today's agenda is from KDC, doing business as Dynalectric. for a total bid amount of $3,659,270 even. That's 3659270 from KDC Incorporated, doing business as Dynalectric. For the record, line item number 58, line item number 75 have been lined out but initialed by the contractor. President James, that concludes the bid openings for today's agenda.
Great, thank you. Is there a second to my motion that we receive the bids forthwith? By Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, the bids will be received forthwith. Is there a second to my motion that we approve the meeting minutes from the meeting of Monday, February 27th, 2017? By Commissioner Repenning. Any objection? Without objection, we will approve those meeting minutes. Agenda item number 17. Bureau of Engineering Above Ground Facility Appeal, Lemoyne Street, Center Median, across from 2005 North Lemoyne Street, recommending that the board deny Chris Callahan's appeal of the Bureau of Engineering's determination to locate the above ground facility on the Lemoyne Street Center Median across from 2005 North Lemoyne Street. Mr. Ledoux on number 17. Mr. Jordan? Ted?
Good morning. My name is Jeff Ledoux. I work for Bureau of Engineering Central District. This is an AT&T high-speed internet cabinet that is in the median across the street from 2005 North Lemoyne Street. It is in Council District 13, Mitchell-Farrell District. They are remaining neutral on this. This is in a residential area in the hills. The problem with this location is the distance between the curb face and the property line on both sides of the street is only about 3 feet, so there's no way to place the cabinet in the sidewalk. There is a median separating this street, and AT&T has proposed putting the cabinet in that median. We did hear from the abutting property owner, Chris Callahan. This cabinet is not across from his house. He's the north of the house that it's by, and basically he's objecting to the cabinet on the basis that it is a harsh visual, environmentally unfriendly device in a conservation easement. AT&T and myself and other staff went out there to look at this. Like I said, there is no other place to put it other than the median. AT&T had modified its original location and moved the cabinet 16 feet further south in the median, so it's near the end, about 10 feet from a utility pole, which places it even further away from Chris Callahan's property.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the presentation by Mr. Ledoux on this and the revision that was made? Commissioner Cinto, anything on this? Go ahead.
Thank you, President James. Jeff, a couple of things. One is because of the sidewalk is actually too small to accommodate a cabinet, and the fact that there was an adjustment made on the placement of the cabinet away from the appellant's property, I think is a good accommodation.
That is correct.
And so therefore I support obviously the denial of the appeal and to move forward.
All right, thank you. Anything further on this? Is that a motion, Commissioner Cinto? I'll second it. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 17. Any issue sending 17 forthwith? We'll send number 17 forthwith. Thank you, Mr. Ledoux. Agenda item number 19, tree removal at 3935 Hopevale Drive. Recommending that the board, and by the way, this is the fourth hearing on this item, and final hearing, I should say. Recommending that the board consider the adopted final initial study, mitigated negative declaration, environmental case ENV 2014-3285 MND. It's transmittal number 9 for a haul route to export 1,680 cubic yards of dirt from the site for the construction of a 2-story single-family dwelling on approximately 18,000 square feet. An 18,000 square foot vacant site, and addendum to the final ISMND at 3935 Hopevale Drive prior to making a decision on the proposed protected tree removal permit. Second, find under the California Public Resources Code, Section 21166, and the California Environmental Quality Act Guidelines, Section 15162, on the basis of substantial evidence contained in the whole record that none of the conditions described in the guidelines of 15162 requiring preparation of a subsequent CEQA document exist. Third, adopt the mitigation monitoring program. That was transmittal. That was transmittal number 12. Fourth, specify that the Urban Forestry Division of the Bureau of Street Services, located at 1149 South Broadway, is custodian of the documents or other material which constitute the record of the proceedings upon which the Board of Public Works decision is based. Fifth, consider that 3 California black walnut trees were removed before the board hearing for the tree removal request and therefore would require replacement with a total of 28 trees, 4 48-inch box-sized coast live oak trees and 24 15-gallon Southern California black walnut trees on site. And 6, review and approve the request for a fee permit to remove 7 California black walnut trees for road paving, curb and gutter, caissons, and retaining wall for new construction of a single-family residence. Tree replacements are required. Mr. Lorenzen, on this, we'll start there. We have 3 speaker cards on number 19. I was not inclined to take any additional commentary today since this is the 4th hearing. However, Mr. Lorenzen is going to at least be asked regarding a proposal for a couple of things that may cause a proposed revision to the tree removal permit regarding placement of replacement trees and looking at what might be additional elements of a mitigation plan. So because of that, we will allow our standard 2 minutes per speaker for those that have their cards in now. Mr. Lorenzen, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. Excuse me, Ron Lorenzen, Bureau of Street Services. As President James has indicated, the property at 3935 Hopeville Drive, we've heard this item several times, and real quickly, just let me give a quick summary of what has occurred. On this property, 3 trees were removed prior to obtaining a permit and coming to the Bureau of Street Services to obtain a permit to remove these Southern California black walnuts. This occurred back in 2014. In the pursuant nearly 3 years now, the Bureau has worked with the applicant to come to some type of resolution as to how we could address the fact that they did take the 3 trees down without a permit, and the fact that still 4 trees require a removal permit to continue the project. In order to properly mitigate this project and to properly have the tree replacements, we actually upped the tree replacement requirement due to the fact that they had removed the 3 trees without going into too much depth about what happened. As President James has indicated, we are requiring 4 48-inch box coast live oaks as well as the additional 24 Southern California black walnuts in a 15-gallon size, which is actually a hard size to find. So we have actually asked for that to happen. At the last hearing, as well as a letter that we received yesterday from the Santa Monica Conservancy, it was requested that we look at this project to determine if the trees could be planted in what the Conservancy feels is a more appropriate location on the property. After reading the letter, I have no problem with having the planting plan adjusted to indicate that the areas that were indicated on the letter from the Conservancy, which is southerly of the road, I think most of the amending would require where the trees are existing in the planting plan now and pulling them up to the road as opposed to down on the property where the trees are now proposed to be planted. There was some issue about the survey that was performed. The Bureau of Engineering did perform a survey. That survey was performed by the city. I think it was alluded to by one of the objectioners that there was a survey done by a private property group. I'm not aware of that if that occurred, but the Bureau of Engineering did submit a survey plan, and you have that survey, so you can see that survey. The trees in question that were removed without the permit were in the public right-of-way per the Bureau of Engineering survey. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
Any questions for Mr. Lorenzen at this time? Commissioner Penning?
So the email from Mr. Edelman that we received regarding a better location for the replacement trees, you're saying that you you're on board with that.
It's definitely doable, but the actual locations will have to work post the permit. We'll work with the applicant to come up with the locations, maybe even meet with the Conservancy officer to see exactly what they're talking about, because he alludes to a location southerly of the new road. And until that's actually built, because this is on a slope, it's kind of hard to tell exactly where that'll be.
Okay, well, I trust you, Ron, to come up with the best possible.
Certainly.
And aggressive, given the nature of the removal for this situation. So I'll leave it in your hands.
All right, we'll be happy to do that.
Thank you, Commissioner Repenning. Anything else for Mr. Lorenzen on this item? Okay. We have 3 speaker cards. Alex did not add your last name because I had such trouble pronouncing it last time. So, sir, we'll have you go after the other 2 speakers in case there are a couple of questions. Okay? David Serber. Good morning, sir.
I'm a resident of Hopevale Drive. I live about 3 houses in from the proposed building site. And this situation, to me, goes above and beyond just the removal of a few trees. It shows the builder's blatant disregard for following procedure and maintaining the integrity of our street and the Hopevale open space, which is adjacent to this property. It's about 50 or 60 lots that were donated to the MRCA and is a maintained nature trail in our neighborhood that's used every day by dozens and dozens of people. By our independent calculation, the builder is grossly underestimating the amount of soil necessary to remove in order to complete this project. We've calculated based upon the slope angle, which exceeds 70 degrees in places, that it would be necessary to remove up to more than 4 times the amount of soil that the builder has disclosed on his initial report. In addition, the builder has improperly transported heavy earth-moving equipment to the site, which damaged the pavement on Hopevale Drive prior to even receiving any of the permits for building or hauling any of this. There was a bobcat up there and a front-end loader that they moved to the site well before any of the permits were issued or anything like that. On the way up the hill, they were moving some of this equipment on the street and it tore up the pavement. This is just, a little bit of the examples of him not following procedure. In addition, he cut down a 60-foot pine tree that was located on public property that wasn't even disclosed in the walnut trees because it's not a protected tree, but he did this just so he could get the heavy equipment up there well before any of the permits were issued. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lorenzen, can I ask you a quick question regarding the access to the public access to the trail? Is that, you may have already addressed this a moment ago, is that being maintained?
The intent of the plan is to maintain that, yes.
Right, okay.
That was discussed at the last hearing?
I'm sorry?
That was discussed at the last hearing.
Right, but I just want to carry that over just because I'm just looking at my list of items from the last hearing that we wanted confirmation on this hearing. We've discussed the right-of-way trees, we've discussed the survey map, the public access to the trail. We have the letter from Mr. Edelman, the email to you regarding the request on the mitigation plan, et cetera, that you just discussed with Commissioner Repenning, satisfying what Mr. Edelman had asked for there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir. The other 2 speakers we have are Svetlana Molchanov and Alex. Good morning, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I'm Svetlana Molchanov. I'm owner of 3935 Hopevale Drive, and I want to thank you again. As you had the chance to review all the papers, I personally did nothing wrong, and but I'm the one who really suffers from all of that. My contractor, and it was proved, to reply on the statement that legal and legal removal, it's not really my contractor's fault either, because it was some misunderstanding or some documents were not provided properly on the time when he had to start the construction. The concerned citizens have no knowledge on geological reports. They're always making statements about soil and everything. We have all the permits, and also we will follow, I promise you, everything going to be done by the book. And I'm, as a concerned citizen, for 3 years, my question is, how much money is city and state willing to spend on this issue? We have 4 hearings only with you. You know, I am concerned. I'm driving electrical car. I love the earth. I'm recycled. Believe me, we wouldn't do this tree if city will properly address that the tree need to be removed prior. So they send a second set in 1 month or 2 correcting that. But between this time, my contractor started to do the construction. Please note for the record, me or my contractor, we don't accept that we did something wrong, but 3 years cost me over $500,000 of extra expenditures that I was willing to put into public road. I had to do better, much better things for the city than we're all doing now this for 3 years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Alex, you put your card in as Alex, so go ahead, sir. Anything you'd like to add this morning?
Good morning. I just want to comment on the last neighbor comments. I did not. I did bring the bobcat on the property because I have a permit to start the job for the street improvement. I have a pre-inspection. They said, go ahead. I have clearance from the Urban Forestry Division, and I have a clearance from the GPI. That's why, but I cleaned the street from the dirt, but I did not damage the street. And when I put my bobcat, I put the plywood, and everything go on the plywood. I just want to ask the board. I have to start all over again now. All the plan checks, all the permits. What should I do? I don't understand till now. And when I cut the trees, like I said, I didn't cut illegally the trees because I have a permit for the street improvement, and I have a pre-inspection with Mr. Dunn, inspector of the administration, and he said, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Vicky, I'm sorry. I've got a few different ways. I would say Tavitan, Tavidian.
That's fine.
Okay, Tavishan.
Yeah, that's good.
Which one do you prefer? So I'll know next time.
Tavidian is
Tavidian.
fine. Tavidian.
That was my first choice, actually. All right. So from Council District 4, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning, commissioners. I would just like to address the board and say that today we're just requesting and reading into the record a condition that prohibits the access to the public trail. Mr. Lorenzen mentioned it. We just want that maintained, and this condition is exclusive of any haul route conditions the applicant may have prohibiting the access. This is for the entire construction period. We want the trail to be able to be accessed. And I just wanted to say that we appreciate that Bureau of Street Services is working with the Santa Monica Mountain Conservancy on the location of the tree planting, and would like to see them continue working on that once the construction is done. I know there was a lot of concern by the neighborhood with this issue of the tree removal, and I just want to remind everyone that this is just for the tree removal permit and not for the actual construction of the house, and the applicant is going to need to go through that entire process again and a haul route hearing again, so that's just for a later date. And I think that's all I needed to say today, so thank you.
Great, thank you, ma'am, and we appreciate the input from the council office, of course. Mr. Lorenzen. And colleagues, before I go to Mr. Lorenzen to propose the condition that the council office and the Bureau of Street Services have discussed, including everything that we've added this morning, any questions from any of you colleagues regarding moving forward on our proposed amended motion? Commissioner Davis.
I don't have a question about the motion. However, the developer asked a question, obviously, Mr. Lorenzen will address, which was, in fact, where does he go from here, given all of the circumstances that have been discussed? And I'm sure that Mr. Lorenzen will address that. But in terms of the motion, I'm ready for that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Davis. Mr. Lorenzen? Go ahead, sir. You can just share with us. Commissioner Davis's question was referencing the developer's question of where does he go from here. The council office addressed that a bit, just saying that this is limited to a tree removal permit. But if you want to say anything to the developer in response to that question, feel free. And then what I'm looking for is your proposed conditional language that the council office has referenced, and Mr. Edelman in his email confidently stated that you could provide. Go ahead.
Well, I hope I can fulfill his confidence in me. Anyhow, to begin with, I think that the conditions in the permit, as far as planting goes, let's address that first. That's an easy one. That prior to the issuance of the permit, that the applicant shall meet with Urban Forestry, with Mr. Tyson and his staff, and to revise the planting plan to demonstrate the fact that the trees will be planted as the Conservancy has requested to the fullest ability that we can before that they have the permit issued. There's some questions about issues that this board has no purview. As far as permits, I would suggest that he go back to Building and Safety as well as the Bureau of Engineering just to ensure that all of his permits either can be reinstated or the process that he will have to take to reinstate those permits.
Right. So it's again, confirm with Building and Safety. I'm just trying to make the record clear for him. Confirm with Building and Safety and the Bureau of Engineering that either the existing permits he has can be
utilized,
are valid and he can go forward on, or if they require revision, to work with those departments for the necessary revision.
Correct.
Go ahead, sir.
And the third or second item for us actually would be to maintain access to the trail during construction and post-construction.
So, Commissioner Jacinto.
Like clarification, President James. Ron, how do we ensure that there is continued access? That's a great point and a very important point for continued access to the trail.
As far as ensuring that the planting occurs as it is, we will have them come back to the Bureau of Street Services post the building of the actual structures and ensure that they have the trees planted where they're supposed to be planted. Remember, this is going to be bonded as well. There's going to be a bond. So the bond will also ensure. So what it'll require is post-inspection by the Bureau of Street Services prior to the planting to ensure that the trees go in as the new planting plan will demonstrate.
Yeah, no, I was asking about the access to the trail, Ron.
I will have to think about that because the Bureau of Street Services doesn't have real authority on private property.
However, what we do is we put in, as we do when we put conditions on any permit, we put the condition in the permit. If they violate the condition, anybody can come and challenge the permit because the condition is violated and have the permit voided.
This is true.
That's the teeth that we're able to have. We've done it with a lot of folks, some sitting in this room. With what happens with a tree removal permit, and I would I'm speculating, Commissioner Jacinto, but given the interest of the neighbors and Mr. Edelman at the MRCA, I can only imagine that if access to the trail is not maintained, we're going to hear about it real quick with a request to void the permit and the permits that are reliant upon it.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I said, if we get notified, we can certainly go investigate. I mean, that's, the key is that we don't have eyes out there, so the community would have to inform us so we can investigate, and then we could take action.
And the council office is going to hear about it as well, and they know how to reach us too, so, yeah.
Yes.
So anything further? And excellent question, by the way. Commissioner Rivas.
So I have a question. So then, from what I understand, we can put that condition in that permit, right? Is that?
Yes.
The board can put
I
that
just wanna make
condition
sure.
in there.
Okay.
My motion would be to grant the recommendation as amended, provided by the Bureau of Street Services and amended by Mr. Lorenzen's statement this morning on tree placement and access to the trail, which will be, of course, worked on accordingly. Mr. Lorenzen and Mr. Tyson will be in touch with Alex going forward. Is there a second on that? Seconded by Commissioners Jacinto and Davis. Any objection?
Thank you.
Thank you. Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item 19 as amended. Any issue sending number 19 as amended forthwith? We'll send number 19 as amended forthwith. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your extended participation in agenda item number 19. It's had various agenda item numbers over the last few months. Agenda item number 20, requested contract award, Council Districts 1, 2, 4, 9, 13, and 14, Bureaus of Engineering and Contract Administration, Secondary Sewer Renewal Program, difficult to access reaches, Northeast Los Angeles, Eagle Rock, Los Feliz, and Griffith Park. Declare M&R Construction the first low bidder to be non-responsive as discussed in the report. Secondly, declare Ramona Incorporated the second low bidder after the local business preference percentage is applied to be the lowest responsive responsible bidder and award them a contract for the project for $6,387,418. Third, authorize the president or two members of the Board of Public Works to execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained by the city attorney. Mr. Pedroso, on agenda item number 20, we have some speaker cards on it, but Mr. Pedroso, we'll start with you, sir.
Good morning, President James. I'm Richard Pedroso with the Bureau of Engineering and Wastewater Conveyance Engineering Division. This difficult to access reaches, or DAR project, comprises of nearly 6 miles of sewers ranging in sizes from 6 to 15 inches in diameter. These sewers will be replaced and or rehabilitated by trenchless repair methods. The work is primarily located in the areas of Eagle Rock, Los Feliz, and Griffith Park. These sewer reaches they're located in golf courses, baseball and soccer fields, and through easements within residential properties. In short, this project's going to be challenging to construct, but we're looking forward to get this thing underway. This has a project labor agreement that's required for it. This project has also met all SEQA requirements, and staff have performed the outreach to the affected property owners. Staff have also performed coordination with the Department of Rec and Parks in obtaining the necessary right of entry permits to perform the work. As you stated, this city engineer's estimate is $5,128,350. The first low bidder was by M&R at $5,405,499. Blois is the second low bidder at $6.32 million, which is 24% higher than the CE's estimate. The third low bidder is by Ramona, who will be speaking after me. His bid was at $6.4 million, which is 24.5% higher than CE's estimate. On November 9, these bids were received. M&R Construction, the first low bidder, did not submit their BIP summary sheet, so staff is recommending to the board that they be declared non-responsive. With respect to the second and third low bids, I'll turn it over to Ms. Linda McGlinchey to explain the BIP requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Pedroso. Ms. McGlinchey, on the second and third. But before we get to the second and third low bids, regarding M&R's failure to submit their summary sheet, is that something you see very often?
Good morning, Linda McLynch, Bureau of Contract Administration. No, we do not see that very often. Typically, though, it's our opinion that when a low bidder fails to modify their summary sheet at all, especially a bidder that's bid on projects before, that they are doing it purposely so that they are found non-responsive.
Could you provide a report to the board in the next quarter on the identity of the contractors that have failed to submit their summary sheets?
Sure. It doesn't happen often, but
Okay,
yes.
Great. Thank you. So on the second and third low bidders, go ahead.
Okay, our second low bidder after the local business preference ordinance is applied is Ramona. They're a local business. They have SBE and EBE pledge participation of 17.69%.
I'm sorry, Ms. McGlinchey, you're on which one?
The Ramona.
Okay, go ahead.
They're the second low bidder after the local business is applied. So we are recommending to Ramona because with the local business, their bid becomes lower for evaluation purposes than Blois, who was the apparent second low bidder without the local business. They had a MBE, SBE pledge participation of 2.51%. So Ramona for us is the low bidder. We're recommending to them the difference between the two bids is approximately $70,000. Blois did submit a letter which was sent to the board. They are requesting that the board not apply the local business preference. In the letter, they claim that Ramona has received several projects recently and that they had received a project due to local business preference. However, it should be noted that of the 4 projects that they list in their letter, 3 of them were awarded to Ramona as the low bid, having nothing to do with their local business preference. The 4th project, which they are attributing to Ramona, the board actually decided to not apply the local business preference and awarded it to Bubalo Construction. So that project wasn't even awarded to Ramona. Blois also claimed that they had submitted local business preference affidavit and that they are a local business. This was back on February 23rd. Staff looked into it. We contacted Blois because they, in fact, had not submitted their affidavit for local business. So we reached out to them. They finally submitted the affidavit sometime Monday afternoon, the 13th of March. So because of that, we have not had time to look into it. We know that they are located in Calabasas. They're claiming local business based on employees, but that is an extensive review, so we cannot in any way say that they will or will not be certified as a local business at this time.
Okay. Any questions from Ms. McGlinchey before we go to the speakers? Commissioner Davis.
I wanted to explore this issue. I know we've not had a time to validate their status as local business. However, you mentioned that they were in Calabasas. Is that within the scope of how we assess local business? Is that in Los Angeles County?
Calabasas is not Los Angeles County, and that would be one of the things we would look at.
What county is it?
It's Ventura.
Okay, so it's Ventura County, and we do not reach out to Ventura.
No, we would require them to submit proof that they have a legal right to a workspace in LA County. That would be one of the items that we would be looking at in terms of their criteria for a local business.
Now, their assertion that they are a local business is based upon anything in specifics?
In their affidavit, they are claiming that at least half of their full-time employees work within the boundaries of Los Angeles County, a minimum of 60% of their total regular hours worked on an annual basis.
Are within Los Angeles County. So they, but is that a part of our formula? Is that a part?
That is one of the potential ways of meeting the criteria for a local business, in which case we have to look at certain documents in order to try and assess whether or not that's a correct statement.
But that is, in fact, the framework, even though we've not had an opportunity at this point because of our own caseload to validate it. But that is within the framework, is what you're telling me.
Well, I would argue it's not just a matter of our not having the staff. The fact of the matter is that on February 23rd, they claimed that they had a pending LBE. They did not submit the affidavit until March 13th. So there was more than enough time where we could have looked at it. We reached out to them when we saw that they made that claim and it wasn't there, and it's on February 26th. So there's been quite a bit of time where they could have submitted that affidavit. We could have looked at the documents had they done it in a timely manner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Rivas?
I have a question regarding their local. Typically, do you already have to be certified as a local business, before you submit the bid? Is that how it works?
Yes.
Or in the process? Right?
Our bid proposal documents state that you must be certified as a local business in order to receive the preference at the time of bid submission. There's one exception due to staffing, which is if you have submitted the affidavit prior to bid opening, but it has not been reviewed. If it's going to make a difference in the award, we would then review it, and if approved, consider it as having retroactive to the date of upload. In this case, it was submitted long after bid opening.
But they claim that they submitted it on February 23rd?
On their February 23rd letter, they claim to have a pending LBE.
Oh, that was the date of the letter?
Yes,
that
but you're correct. On the 23rd, they claimed to have a pending LBE when they had not submitted it.
Okay. No, I thought that maybe February 23rd was the day that they submitted their LBP, and I was going to ask you if that was before the bid date or not, but it doesn't seem like.
No, and that would have been after the bid date as well.
That would have been after. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Rivas. Commissioner Cinto?
Thank you. Linda, I think we're in a good spot. I think BCI having a history of 60 projects for the last 9 years. When they finish their certification, it'll be good to consider them as an LBE as well. It's clear, I'm in terms of where we're at right now, but in terms of, they do have a history with us, and the LBP is something that they could have continued to pursue earlier on too. So I'm good with this.
Commissioner Penning?
Just looking at the subcontracting, while neither company, one of the things that I think is at least interesting about the Ramona bid is that they are working 17% with an emerging business enterprise. What is emerging? How do we define emerging?
Emerging is a company, their annual receipts are less than $3 million.
So these are the small...
Very small.
The small companies that we're trying to hopefully see them grow.
Yes.
Okay, well that's, I think, an interesting part of their package for me.
Thank you. Any further questions? We'll hear from our speakers.
Another question. They have also 17% of small business.
Yes. So Underground Builders Incorporated, DBA Underground Manholes, is both a small business and emerging business. To keep in mind, just as Blois listed Precom Products, who is only SBE certified, When it comes to construction, a small business is defined as a business having less than 14 million in annual revenues.
So did we increase our numbers to 14? I thought our numbers were 3.5 emerging and 3.0 small business. Is that true, or did we adopt a state framework?
So for small business on city-funded projects, it's 14 million for construction, 7 million for personal professional services and commodities. For emerging business, it's, quite honestly, I am confusing these two. We have emerging business, and then the city also has a small local business certification, one of which is 3 million, the other is 3.5 million.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Thank you all. We may have some additional questions after our speakers. Mr. Blois Construction Company.
Good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners. I'm Jim Blois of Blois Construction. I kind of had something prepared, but based in the interest of time, and I think I'm just going to kind of go out on the fly to maybe address some of what was happened. We definitely were not applied for a local business preference before the bid. That was our mistake. We were unaware of it. My intent in writing the letter and coming to today was not to dispute that at all. It's just that, as you're well aware, the city's local city business ordinance does give this board the discretion to apply or not apply on a per contract basis. So I knew it was just really up to you. One thing I do want to clarify, and I'll certainly talk to Linda, is I made very careful in my letter that we had not applied. I said we were in the process because I knew that we hadn't applied. And the reason it took us so long is you do have to submit an affidavit. And on that affidavit, I have to sign and say that all these things are true. And there's 3 or 4 different ways that you can qualify per the ordinance. And it took us that long to, before I could sign that affidavit, I wanted to be confident that we did think we met it. And so that was the delay. And she's absolutely right. We sent it in Monday. And we are based, our headquarters is in Oxnard, definitely not in the county. We have a workspace in Calabasas, which definitely is in the county of Los Angeles. And that's why we did it. And we wouldn't have that space except that we are trying to qualify for the local business ordinance. It hasn't affected us over the years. As Commissioner Jacinto mentioned, we have a long history. We are on the emergency sewer contract. We're doing at least twice a week, we're doing a contract with the city. We're working in several places. Much more than 60% of our work is within LA County. We're working on Wilshire, Grand. We're working on the Metro Rail maintenance yard. We're working at LAX. We're working at Silver Lake Reservoir with DWP. So we historically have thought of ourselves as a local business contractor, but now it was our mistake not to have applied to this before. But this is a $6 million contract that it makes it worth to at least come down and put forth what we were thinking on it. It has hit us twice in the last 2 months. There was this bid and another bid with the LAWA, Department of Airports, where the same thing happened. On that one, they threw out the bids and they're just going to rebid it. But that's where I'm coming from. I do believe that we will qualify. We wouldn't have submitted the application if we didn't think so. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Blois? Commissioner Davis.
So you're in the part of Calabasas that is in LA County?
That's right. I understand.
Okay, I'm just trying to verify. Okay.
As far as I know, the Ventura County line is in Westlake on Lindero Canyon Road.
It may be an area that's in both counties.
Yeah.
We have some communities that are, but I was just trying to, as a result, verify that the place where your particular office is in the LA County part of it.
Well, and if it's not, we're going to have to reapply with a place that is. We have another office we use on Century Boulevard right in LAX.
Certainly you want to verify.
Yes.
Often you think that it is and discover later, so you definitely want to now moving
Yeah,
forward.
she caused me a start this morning.
Verify that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Penning.
I just I had a couple questions because it sounds like your company is actually not based in the county, but that you've opened an office in the county in order to qualify. I think what we're looking for in terms of giving people an 8% preference is really trying to support those businesses that are employing people that live locally, that are, purchasing from local businesses, so that the money that we're spending in engaging contractors is as much as possible going back into the local communities, so that we're hiring people. So that is the intent. And so what concerns me is that it sounds like you're sort of setting up a beachfront. Can you tell me more?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're correct. I mean, we're just trying to fall. It's an 8% is a huge advantage.
It is, yes.
And if we're bidding lots of projects, which we do, we have to qualify for that. We're not going to move our headquarters from Oxnard down here. We're trying to meet the letter of the law of the ordinance. But I would say to your point, we do everything you just said. We have to hire. We're a union contractor. We have PLA agreements. We have to hire local people. We have to hire apprentices. Most of the people on all those projects that we're working on 17 projects in LA County, really, most of them LA City right now. All of those guys, the majority of them are from this area. We definitely spend money with the local people down here. I'm not trying to hide anything, and I understand the intent of the ordinance, but if it's an 8%, which I was astounded when I found that out, we can't simply compete in this for LA City contracts unless we get that. If it's something that we don't qualify, per your comments, then we would have to consider what to do, but that's about as honest as I can be.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis.
I wanted to ask Mrs. McGlinchey some clarification, which now this discussion has raised a concern about understanding the application of the local bid and what is the criteria. There are some companies that have a headquarters in some other place, and yet they have a district office in our area where, in fact, they run that district office with employees and that they began to do business out of that district office on a regular basis. What are the rules as it relates to that?
So a contractor can be certified as a local business. One, they must show that they have a legal right to a workspace in LA County. That's the first thing, regardless of where they're headquartered. So the legal right to workspace, we typically confirm that with a lease or a deed. We're also looking at the type of place. As an example, we've had companies come in with a lease for a virtual office or one of those office share things where when we look at it, they're allowed 8 hours a month occupancy or usage of a conference room. We would not count that as a workspace.
So, and I think Commissioner Repenning is right in terms of the intent of the board. Certainly we wouldn't want a beachfront. That's on one hand. But on the other hand, I wanted to make sure we did diligence in terms of if there was a developer who really legitimately had a district office that is functioning with regularly employed individuals from this county doing business, therefore, with residents in the economic development communities, that the rules would allow them to play or not play. And you say, in fact, that according to the rules, if that is true, that they're legitimate and valid, that they could participate and be accepted as a local business in that circumstance.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGlinchey, Commissioner Davis. We have another speaker card representing Ramona. Michael, it looks like Grabovay or Grabovac? I'm sorry.
Close, yeah. It's Michael Gerbovats.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Gerbovats, yeah. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Michael Gerbovats. I'm with Ramona Inc. Just here to pretty much plead our case, short and sweet. We are a local business. We have been certified for years. Our office is in Arcadia. 95% of our workforce lives in LA County. We do not maybe like 90% of our work the last year in LA County. We have multiple projects going on with the city of LA at the moment. So,
Any questions for our representative from Ramona? Thank you, sir. Thank you.
all right,
for being
thank you.
here. Ms. McGlynn, she have a question for you. Actually, a question for you and for Mr. Pedroza as well. So, you got Boyce's paperwork on Monday. One, how much time does your bureau need in the normal course of business to verify and certify Blois? And two, the question for you, Mr. Pedroza, will be, is that something that the Bureau could wait for? And then the next question, the final question, depending on those answers, would be, should we do so out of fairness to Ramona? But go ahead.
So typically what we do is, we would need to expedite the review then and put them
My
ahead.
question was in the normal course of business.
Right. So, okay, normal course of business, I'm not sure when we would actually get to the affidavit. We've got a backlog of about 50 firms right now who are all pending LBE submission.
And the reason I said normal course of business is I don't know that it's fair to all the other firms for Blois to come in late. Granted, we appreciate their long-term working relationship with them, and we want that to continue because we know they're a great firm that we work with. But does by coming in late mean that they should be able to get in front of the others that got in before they did? That's why I asked the normal course of business, okay?
So our normal procedure would be that they would be number 51 in line at this point. When we get to it, we would ask for their supporting documents. We typically give them 30 days to respond. And so then it becomes on them in terms of how much of that 30 days it takes them to respond. Given that they are claiming half of their full-time employees, it takes a little longer to do the analysis and look to determine who's full-time as well as how many of those employees are, whether or not it's half.
Okay. Ms. Pedroza?
With regard to your question, President James, this project is on the mayor's committed list of projects to be awarded this year. We want to get this work underway. This is a pilot project where we have the difficult repair areas in the city, and some of this work has been deferred from prior SSRP projects, and so again, we're eager to get the work started. It would be our preference to get this project awarded today so we could get it started.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Repenning.
I just wanted to drill down a little bit into that 8% number, and I don't know if this is a question better for Linda or for Ted, but you know, the 8%, when we decided as a city that it was worth us spending up to 8% more on a project if the company was locally based, what was that figure based on? In terms of,
It's with a cap of $1 million as well.
With a cap of $1 million.
Linda may know. I don't recall exactly how they arrived at 8%. 8% is, however, sort of in the similar range that other governmental entities apply for their local business preferences, including the state of California. 8% with a cap of $1 million. I don't know if the other government agencies have a similar cap, but 8% is, I would say, typical for this type of ordinance. And I might also say when the city council, from a policy standpoint, arrived at that decision that it's okay to spend a little bit more for those local businesses, they didn't really distinguish between companies that are physically headquartered in Los Angeles County versus businesses that have such a significant presence in the county, while not headquartered, still qualify. There was no distinction between that. They're all viewed as equally local. And I might also add on this project, since it's subject to a project labor agreement, no matter who the contract is awarded to, the project labor agreement itself specifies levels of local hiring for the workers on the actual project.
So, but the 8% is in some part a theory about trickle down, the sort of spending trickling down, but it also has, I assume, talks about where people are paying taxes, right? And
The purpose of the local, one of the purposes of the local business preference is to recognize that it can be more expensive for firms to be operating in LA County. And so to recognize that in some respects they may be taking a hit
We have
for
a higher
being here.
tax base.
And so therefore we'll recognize that because we want to encourage businesses to be local.
Okay, I just wanted to, I just think it's important for us to sort of recognize what this is about and where it came from. And while I don't have a strong opinion on this issue, I would say that given the time that it's going to take to certify Blois, and the fact that Ramona is truly based in LA County and that we're going to see some benefit from that, that would be my and that there's not a huge price difference between the two. But again, I don't have a, what I would say to Mr. Blois is we would love to have you move from Oxnard. Actually, move your headquarters down here. We would invite you to come down. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding. Commissioner Davis.
In terms of this particular case before us, I agree that Blois is extremely competitive in this particular matter. But I think it gets down to what Mrs. McGlinchey has presented to us administratively. They just did not turn in the paperwork in a timely manner that will allow us to validate their wherewithal as a business that has a district office in LA County. So having said that, then it's clear to me that in fact at this point in time, Ramona had things in place administratively in terms of being a local business, and to that end is the core issue in the decision that needs to be made in their behalf, and that and only that, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. I would put a motion forward, and thank you both. We don't have any further questions. Given the statements by Ms. McGlinchey on the amount of time, I don't want them to expedite the Blois, and they haven't asked us to. In fairness to them, the Blois application, because we have other applications. Getting it in late for whatever reason should not put you in front of the line. And given the time and the urgency of the project as described by Mr. Pedroso and the request of that bureau that we move forward, I would make a motion that we adopt both bureaus' recommendation as stated in agenda item number 20, and go forward with Ramona. I do want to say that in this instance, as has come out in the testimony and our statements, we have two excellent contractors that we're considering today. We appreciate the work of both of these entities. Both gentlemen described the amount of work that they're doing in the county and the city of Los Angeles, and we only want that to continue and indeed to grow. And Mr. Blois, it's $70,000. I always would love to save the $70,000, but at the end of the day, on the difference, that's the delta in the bid prices. We do feel like we get that back in many ways, as described in the communications between Commissioner Repenning, the bureaus, and Mr. Jordan, and I agree with that. But I would encourage you, as I know you will, your application's in. We look forward to you getting your LBE certification, and this won't be an issue going forward for you on that end of the argument. So that'll be my motion, seconded by Commissioner Jacinto. Any objection? Without objection, that'll be the order. Any issue sending it forthwith? We'll send it forthwith. Thank you, everyone. Moving to agenda item number 21, CD14, street closure Flower Street between 4th Street and 5th Street. Bear with me just a moment to read the item into the agenda. Then we'll have Mr. G from the Bureau of Engineering summarize where we are, and then we'll go to our speaker cards. Agenda item 21, Council District 14, street closure Flower between 4th and 5th, recommending that the board first find the Board of Public Works has reviewed and considered the information in the project draft environmental impact statement, environmental impact report, that was transmittal number 1, and the project final EIS and EIR, which was transmittal number 2. Find under the California Public Resources Code, section 21166, and the California Environmental Quality Act Guidelines, Section 15162, on the basis of substantial evidence contained in the whole record, that since certification of the EIS and EIR, which I'll call the EIR, there have been no changes with respect to the circumstances under which the temporary street closure being undertaken would require a subsequent EIR or supplemental EIR. Third, adopt the January 20th, 2012 Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program. It's been before us many times. That's Chapter 8 of the EIR as amended by the Metro Board of Directors on April 6, 2012. And Appendix 3, the Memorandum of Agreement with the California State Historic Preservation Officer, which was transmittal number 3, prepared by Los Angeles County Metro as it pertains to construction impacts. Number 4, find under the CEQA Guidelines Section 15091 that changes or alterations have been required in or incorporated into the project which reduce or substantially lessen the significant environmental effects as identified in the EIR. Further, find that there is no feasible alternative or additional feasible mitigation measures within the board's powers that would substantially lessen or avoid any significant effect the project would have on the environment. Fifth, adopt the attached CEQA findings of fact and statement of overriding considerations, that was transmittal number 4, as it pertains to the temporary street closure, and find that the economic, social, technological, and other benefits of the project outweigh its significant and unavoidable impacts. Number 6, specify that the Metro Transit Division of the Bureau of Engineering, located at 1149 South Broadway, to the board, that's LA, to the board located at 200 North Spring Street, and other relevant City of Los Angeles departments are custodians of the documents or other material which constitute the record of the proceedings upon which the board's decision is based. 7, find that the board approved the request to extend the temporary existing street closure of Flower Street. This is an extension between 4th and 5th Street for 5 58-hour weekends starting Friday at 7 p.m. and ending Monday at 5 a.m. for the following weekends, subject to the conditions identified within the report. The weekends are March 17th, 2017 to March 20th, 2017, March 24th, 2017 to March 27th, 2017, March 31, 2017 to April 3rd, 2017, April 7th, 2017 to April 10th, 2017, and April 14, 2017 to April 17, 2017. 8, authorize the city engineer and the director of the Bureau of Street Services to administratively approve 2 additional 58-hour weekend full closures, that's recommendation number 7 above, if unforeseen conditions are encountered which delay the completion of the construction. Recognizing, Mr. G, that you might have an amendment of an alteration of the weekends because of Easter?
That is correct. I'll go
ahead,
through that.
sir.
Good morning. I am Curtis G. from the Bureau of Engineering Metro Transit Division. The Metro Regional Connector Project is a 1.9-mile underground light rail system through downtown Los Angeles that will extend from the Gold Line Little Tokyo Station to the 7th Street Metro Center. On November 9, 2016, the board adopted a Bureau of Engineering and Bureau of Street Service joint report permitting the temporary closure of Flower Street between 4th Street and 5th Street for various weekends ending February 13, 2017, with a contingency of 4 additional weekends if unforeseen conditions were encountered. Metro under contractor, Regional Connector Constructors, RCC, requested to extend the existing temporary 58-hour weekend full street closure for 9 additional weekends to continue the installation of the structural decking. On February 15, 2017, 4 of the requested 9 58-hour weekend street closures were granted through recommendation number 11 of the November 9, 2016 Joint Board Report authorizing the city engineer and the director of the street services to administratively approve 4 additional 58-hour weekend full closures if unforeseen conditions are encountered which delay the completion of construction. According to Metro, for the administrative extension, unanticipated challenges associated with the relocation of a 72-inch storm drain and securing numerous utilities to the deck could not be accomplished during the normal decking phase. It was necessary to remain at the northern half of the street to avoid extended future impacts to the immediate neighborhood. Also, rain events on several weekends and a protest march in downtown negatively impacted production. The administrative weekend closure extension was granted until March 13, 2017. This closure request that I am here today is for the remaining 5 58-hour weekend full street closures of Flower Street between 4th Street and 5th Street, starting Friday, March 17, 2017 at 7 p.m. and ending Monday, April 24th, 2017 at 5 a.m. to advance the structural decking further south along Flower Street through the northern half of the intersection of 5th Street. The installation of decking, structural decking, is needed to carry traffic while construction continues below the deck for the tunnel box structure. The worksite traffic control plans for the proposed closures has been approved by LADOT. A representative from LADOT is here today for any questions. Council District Number 14 has communicated that they support the extension of the weekend street closures. Originally, Metro requested that the last weekend closure of the extension excuse me. Originally, Metro requested that the last weekend closure of the extension end on Monday, April 17th, 2017, but decided 2 days ago, on March 13th, not to work on the weekend due to it being Easter weekend. This is the reason why I'm asking for a verbal amendment to this board report. I will read the 2 recommendations that I will be verbally amending today. Recommendation number 7, find that the board approved the request to extend the temporary existing street closure of Flower Street between 4th Street and 5th Street for 5 58-hour weekends starting Friday at 7 p.m. and ending Monday at 5 a.m. for the following weekends, subject to the conditions identified within this report. March 17, 2017 to March 20th, 2017, March 24th, 2017 to March 27, 2017, March 31st, 2017 to April 3rd, 2017, April 7th, 2017 to April 10th, 2017, and this is where my verbal amendment starts. April 21st, 2017 to April 24th, 2017. The verbal amendment ends right here. And then for recommendation number 8, authorize the city engineer and the director of Bureau of Street Services to administratively approve 2 additional 50-hour weekend closures. My verbal amendment will start here. Ending May 8th, 2017. Verbal amendment stops here. Recommendation number 7 above. If unforeseen conditions are encountered which delay the completion of this construction. I therefore ask the board to adopt this board report with the recommendations as amended and with the conditions stated here. Pursuant to the City of Los Angeles and Metro Master Cooperative Agreement, City Council Contract number C104288 and the Board Joint Report number 1 Regional Connector Special Printing Process adopted September 12, 2014, associated permit fees shall be waived. 2, permittee shall obtain all necessary approvals for construction work related to the street closure prior to implementing any and all street closure related activities. 3, permittee shall obtain a Los Angeles Police Department exemption from work hour restriction permit and comply with all permit conditions. 4, permittee shall comply with all construction related mitigation measures required in the MMRP. In conclusion, representatives from Metro, RCC, LADOT, and the Bureau of Engineering's Environmental Management Group are here today to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. G. Any questions for him before we move along to Mr. Sutton? We may have some questions going forward. Thank you, sir. Mr. Sutton on agenda item number 21.
Good morning. My name is Christopher Sutton. I'm an attorney for the Westin Bonaventure Hotel, which is located on the west side of Flower between 4th and 5th. I've appeared several times on this and urged you to exercise care in your discretion. This extension was not contemplated back in September and October when you first heard this. Before you consider this, you need a report from contract administration on how Metro has been behaving under the prior arrangement. And we believe they've been behaving badly. The driveways, the Bonaventure have been blocked. The noise levels have been exceeded repeatedly, and we really have no one to complain to because apparently there's no one at Metro will actually do anything other than listen to complaints. The MMRP required a traffic management plan that has never been adopted. It was specifically required. MTA started to prepare one in the fall of 2015 and then withdrew it, and they've now submitted a series of these little worksite traffic control plans. A traffic management plan would have dealt with the entire duration. Their unforeseen events, such as the AIDS walk, were known years in advance, and so that the idea that they need this extension is their own making. The MMRP and the MTA board resolution requires them to meet the noise thresholds in the city's CEQA guidelines and the FTA noise guidelines. And those documents treat a hotel as a residence, which means you have to have no night noise over 75 decibels. They've ignored that. The Bonaventure last summer recorded a final track map. A large number of the floors in the Bonaventure are now condominiums where actual residents live. So that the idea that the Bonaventure is being treated solely as a hotel is simply incorrect. There are less noise monitors on Flowers Street than you have on the equivalent dig sites along Wilshire, like at Fairfax, La Cienega, Western, Crenshaw, and yet the noise standards are not enforced here on Flowers Street.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton.
And we would like you to impose those requirements because they are in the MMRP. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Baker? A couple things I would like for you to respond to. Number one, acknowledging that the issue of the AIDS walk is something that Metro and the city have known about for some time. The board report also references something that we all are aware of, two big items as well. One, we did not anticipate the Women's March. That's was correct. A lot larger than the AIDS walk. That was something that we didn't know was going to happen, nor get the size. I don't think we understood the size until that morning.
That's
Secondly,
correct, yes.
So I'd like for you to comment on that, but I want you to comment more broadly to his comments. And then the issue of this rainy season this year that we've had to deal with. They're both referenced in the board report, but I wanted you to respond because I do think he has a valid point regarding the AIDS walk. But go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Yes, as was mentioned by Mr. G, there were three essential events that kind of have contributed to this. One was the storm drain relocation, which was complicated. The rain events, as you mentioned, and the protest march. I want to talk about the noise and the access. We've had each weekend 2 independent noise monitors out there roving the site. We've collected data on every weekend. That's been adjudicated. We've been to court many times about noise and access. We're still very mindful of our obligations in the neighborhood and doing our best to be good neighbors while we're constructing. We're asking approval to extend the extensions to compensate not only for the lost time, but also as part of this is 2 additional weekends to get across the 5th Street intersection. And that was not really included in the original request. It was anticipated in a subsequent request for the south half of Flower, but we've chose now because of some other work sequencing to continue through the intersection of 5th. So that is also some new work that is included in this request for time extension. With respect to the traffic management plan has been prepared. The traffic management plan is a tool to guide us in our planning effort to make sure we are completely compliant with not only the traffic circulation requirements of the city, but of our MMRP. So I would take exception to the statements made about one not being prepared. And whether the extension is a result of poor planning or unforeseen conditions, it's required to complete the work. And so I'm here today to ask your approval to do that. It's not in our advantage to be out there longer than anticipated. Weekend work is expensive. We're doing everything we can to expedite that work within the very tight constraints, actually, that do exist on the north half of Flower. And appreciate your consideration this morning.
And I know Mr. Sutton represents the Bonaventure. they're a very important business. They're not the only business there that's affected by it. So we understand the urgency on the side of Metro. Commissioner Jacinto?
Thank you, President James. Gary, thank you for being here. Can you talk a little bit about the noise monitoring that Metro has had? What are our findings to date, sir?
Our findings have been we have always been below the noise thresholds that are established in our environmental documents. And that's been independently verified. In fact, they have also had a monitor out there. I've not seen any of their results, although they have purported in front of the court that the noise limits have been exceeded, and the court has found that we've been in compliance. And for that reason, we're continuing to adopt those best practices as we can. And not only just to meet the threshold or to be below it, but to be as far below it as we can. That's our obligation, not just to barely meet the requirement, but to do what we can to mitigate noise.
Thank you, Gary. I think that's important as we continue this important where there's no doubt. And regardless of unforeseen conditions or things that pop up. Actually, this Sunday is the LA Marathon. This is not going to impact this.
No. And with respect to the previous mentioned routes, a lot of times we know the event is planned, but we don't know the route until a week before or 2 weeks before. And that's what happened with the AIDS March.
Sometimes there are route alterations that happen.
Yes.
AIDS Walk had an issue regarding, I just happen to remember it because of street services, we had an issue regarding the music center and the timing that the walkers were going to come by. So there were some reroutes that occurred that were and sometimes routes are altered.
That's correct.
Anything further? Commissioner Davis.
On the protest march, I'm just trying to get clarification. We weren't able to do any work that day.
We shut down all of our job sites on Flower Street, also on 2nd at Broadway and at Central. We just weren't sure of the safety of the workers, and it's really being able to get access in and out of the site. And the most impacted was Flower Street and Broadway.
All right. Thank you. I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 21, seconded by Commissioner Jacinto. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 21. And is she sending it forthwith? We'll send it forthwith. Thank you, everyone, on 21.
And Mr. President, just for the record, that is as amended based on the verbal amendments.
Easter weekend, as Mr. G put on the record. Yes, fair enough. So it's as amended. So again, I'll call for the vote. Any objection as amended? It'll be adopted as amended.
Thank you.
We'll send it forthwith as amended. Thank you, Mr. Campos. We have a couple of administrative items that I did not clear earlier. Agenda item number 24, specifications submitted for board adoption and authorization to advertise for the invitation of bids. Council Districts 1, 4, 5, 10, and 11 for the Wilshire Boulevard Bus Rapid Transit Communications Upgrade Phase 2 project. It's a federal project. The estimate's $2,271,200. Bid receipt date Wednesday, April 19th, 2017. Is there a second to my motion that we adopt agenda item number 24 forthwith by Commissioner Davis? Any objection? With that objection, we will do so. Agenda item number 25 is stop notice. Adkison Engineers, doing business as AdCan Engineers, has transmitted a stop notice in the amount of $18,260 for furnishing land, surveying services, and civil engineering in connection with the Riverside Drive Viaduct Replacement over Los Angeles River project. The contractor is Flatiron West Incorporated. Is there a second to my motion that we receive agenda item number 25 forthwith by Commissioner Davis? Any objection? With that objection, we will do so. Agenda item number 23. The Mayor and City Council, Council Districts 8 and 9, have approved and authorized the board to implement the South Los Angeles Green Alley Master Plan as the first of many Green Alleys handbooks that can be used as a model for developing green alleys and other communities in the city, as well as Los Angeles County and around the state. It's being sent back for signature. Is there a second to my motion that we approve agenda item number 23 forthwith? By Commissioner Repenning and Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we will do so. Agenda item number 18. Agenda item number 18. Council District 14, change order number 15. Skanska, Stacy, and Whitbeck, the Bureau of Street Services yard relocation for the 6th Street Viaduct Replacement Project, recommending that the board authorize the city engineer to issue change order number 15 for the project to close out the work performed on bid item numbers 1 through 13 associated with the notice to proceed number 1. Julia, lots of numbers in there. I'm sure you'll summarize it all for us.
Oh, absolutely. Good morning. Julia Moy, Bureau of Engineering, 6th Street Viaduct Division. Very happy to come to you this morning with a large credit change order associated with the closeout of notice to proceed number 1 for Package B. So Package B, as you may recall, which was awarded back in June of 2015, was one of our 4 right-of-way packages for the project, and it included the demolition of 8 buildings, utility relocations, as well as a installation of a new Bureau of Street Services yard at 850 North Mission. That scope, the installation of the Bureau of Street Services yard at 850 North Mission, was awarded and to be issued as a notice to proceed number 2 on the project. That NTP was never issued due to various budgetary and availability of the parcel. So we're moving forward to negotiate with the contractor to remove that scope of work from the contract, and based on our coordination with the city attorney and on that, we will come back to the board as needed to close that out. But this morning, we're looking for authority to close out NTP 1, which the partial statement of completion for that work was issued in late December of last year. So the work on this is closed out. We're asking that this change order be issued for a credit of $850,588. It's a number of closeout items. Really, the breadth of the change order is deleting an $880,000 allowance item for steel tube fencing. We had originally envisioned doing some permanent fencing along some of the parcels we acquired, along with this Package B. But since then, the contractor has placed their temporary construction fencing also, under the landscaping package under design. We're taking a look at, what design would be most appropriate to go along with the current landscape package under design. So we're deleting these from Package B and intend to issue this under Package 6 landscaping, this scope of work and this funding associated with it. This change order, this credit change order, brings us to a negative 4.8% change orders for Package B. And we look for your approval to move forward with this change order.
Thank you. Any questions for Julia? No questions. Commissioner Sintos made a motion on agenda item number 18. Commissioner Rivas has seconded it. Any objection? Without objection, we will adopt number 18. Any issue sending it forthwith? We'll send it forthwith. Julia, thank you as always.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Agenda item number 26, I believe is all we have left this morning, our oral report and update, which we appreciate every quarter when they come in. Transportation project status update, regional connector, Crenshaw LAX, and others. Our Metro Transit Authority and DOT, Brian Pennington.
Good morning, President James, board
members. Thank you for your patience this morning.
Happy to be here. We're happy to present. Thank you. In the interest of time and with your forbearance, I'll go straight into the agenda for our presentation, and I'll ask Gary Baker, our project director of the Regional Connector Project, to come up and
Brian,
present.
could we hold for just a minute? I've still got one voting item that I want to clear. I'm sorry about that. Okay. I miscounted. So what I'd like to do, thank you, Mr. Campos, on that. What I'd like to do is go ahead and call agenda item number 22, construction order, John S. Meat Company Incorporated, recommending that the board authorize the construction order for the Harding Street Bridge Rock Slope Protection Project to John Meek Incorporated in the amount of $583,600 with a not-to-exceed limit of $700,320. I may have done a disservice to Commissioner Repenning. I told her we were done with our voting items, and I know she had another city obligation she had to make. But on agenda item number 22, Carl De La Fuente. Good morning, sir. Sorry about the overlook there.
Commissioner James, thank you. Commissioners, my name is Carl De La Fuente with the Bureau Engineering, and I'm here just to request authority to the board to approve the construction order for the Harding Street Bridge. We got a motion approval last week, And we're moving forward just to have urgently to issue the construction order due to impending deadlines with the federal agencies that they imposed us that March 18 we have to prove that the city is under contract with the low bidder. So that urges us to immediately put an action and request the motion to be approved therefore the construction order. And I appreciate the opportunity of the Executive Officer Fernando Campos to put this last item in the agenda this week.
Understood, and I certainly understand the urgent nature of this. Commissioner Jacinto, thanks for your early action on this. Any questions as we move forward on this? Number 22, a motion from Commissioner Jacinto, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 22. Thank you, sir. Any issue sending it forthwith? We'll send it forthwith. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Commissioner
Mr.
James.
Pennington, you are up, sir. Thank you. Mr. Baker.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Board. Thank you for the opportunity to give you an update on Regional Connector. You often hear a lot about bad news. We have a lot of good news to report too, and I'm anxious to do that this morning. Just a brief cover slide here, just a summary of the project. I think we're familiar with that. It's just going to really benefit the transit riders in Los Angeles by reducing their commute times by up to 20 minutes when we complete this project. Moving forward to the next slide. This is an image of our tunnel progress. We have tunneled underneath Little Tokyo, and it's been a surprising success. I shouldn't say surprising, it's been a remarkable success. There will be a lot of papers written about this because it's difficult condition, and it was an amazing process, and so we're happy to report that we're about 600 feet in. We're now in good formation under 2nd Street and headed this way. Broadway Street, just a brief update here. We're continuing to hang utilities and do the decking there. I wanted to personally present this today because I remember Commissioner Rapini asking me if I'm ever going to be back about Broadway, and I was here to fess up this morning because you will see shortly a board report asking for extension of time to deal with the United Home Walk, the Million Women's March, and the Night on Broadway were 3 events that we hadn't planned for, as well as some rain. And so we're going to be before you here shortly.
Hear about that again.
You will hear about that again. Yes.
Understood.
And so, but other than that, work is going really well. There are two, you likely know, 2 developments that are anticipated on either side of our station box, and we're beginning negotiations and discussions with them to coordinate the construction and the design of that. So things are well on Broadway. The Hope Street Station, just a couple images there showing that we've reached the bottom and we started our way up. So that's good news in our business, and you can see an image there of some waterproofing and the initial concrete going in place. And then turning over to Flower Street, we just had an item on that. I appreciate your support on that. As we continue our decking operations, our focus has been on completion of the retrieval pit. That is another item that you will see coming forward in probably about a month for some weekend closures to retrieve the tunnel machine. That has always been anticipated. Those details will follow shortly. But I also want to just bring your attention to kind of a heads up. We've been planning for a few months now some unanticipated relocations of major DWP utilities in 6th Street. There's about $13 million of work that was unanticipated for the project. And so we're well advanced in our planning with DOT and our stakeholder outreach, but I realize that that's an item that needs a lot of advance briefings, and we hope to be doing that, and also obviously updating the community. So more information on that to follow. I'll be glad to share any specific information about that with you if requested. There's three things that are juggling on Flower Street, and that's why it appears so complicated. There's the decking operation on the north half and the south half. This is north of 5th and south of 5th. There's some big water line cut over that's being done on south between 5th and 6th that has been ongoing for a year. We're now at the cutover stage, so the major businesses there. And then thirdly, this electrical relocation. So each of these requires a traffic management plan, or a traffic control plan. And that's one of the reasons there's a lot of pieces kind of floating there, but we're coordinating things with the interest of mitigating impacts to to businesses and drivers. Then turn it over quickly to the community outreach. Just to report that the stations have been formally named by the board. Little Tokyo Arts District Station retains its initial name, or current name. The Broadway Street Station will now be called Historic Broadway, and then the 2nd and Hope Street Station will officially be known as Grand Avenue Arts Bunker Hill. In terms of construction mitigations, we're continuing to meet. In fact, there was a meeting this morning even with community groups. We're very active in our outreach and have intensified that in anticipation of this partial closure of 6th Street that's coming up for the utility work. And then lastly, just reporting on the status of our business interruption fund. The numbers that you have see there in the presentation are through December. I have updated numbers as of last week to you. Substantial increase. Total at both, well, I'll talk about the Little Tokyo is a little more than $1.2 million have been awarded. And at 2nd and Broadway, $663,000 have been awarded for a total of $1.8 million for small businesses. And I have representatives here from the Small Business Fund and Community Outreach if you have any specific questions for that. And then closing, just the summary of the items that we'll be bringing forward to you. I've mentioned many of these, the Broadway Street extension of time. We've already acted on the one this morning for Flower Street, the one for the DWP electrical relocation, and then the retrieval of our TBM machine late May. The crane setup at that site requires 2 weeks to set up, 2 weeks to withdraw the equipment, and then 2 weeks to take it down. So that's kind of be done on weekend work. That's all I have, unless you have any specific questions. And again, I have other representatives here if you care to speak about community outreach or business interruption.
Gary, thank you for the summary. Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you, President James. Gary, thank you for the update and all the things that Metro is doing regarding this such an important, pivotal, central scope of work for Metro. You know, I just want us to be very, very clear that a potential 6th Street is a very significant impact. And I would request on behalf of our board and our partnership and our working relationship that Metro continue to take the lead into doing whatever it can as soon as it can to project, to communicate, to coordinate all the mitigation necessary pending a major closure. And we both understand that, and I think that we're possibly, if we're at 2 months out, that I would say that we need to do work on the ground now and work together, because we pledge that from our board. We just have to get our plan in place and knowing that it could be a very major closure, something on the scale of slow jam or Carmageddon. We don't want to underplay that, but we know we have to move the work forward, and we're totally committed. So we just want that ownership and that recognition on behalf of Metro to say that you're going to do what it takes to take the leadership on it, as you have done in the past.
Thank you. That work has begun and will continue in earnest. Yes, we recognize the impact to the community. We have a lot more details. We'd be glad to share about that at the time or in other briefings if necessary. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Anything else from Gary on Regional Connector? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, President James and Commissioners. My name is Kimberly Ong, Metro Deputy Project Director for the Crenshaw LAX project. For those in the audience that are not aware of what that project is, it's an 8.5-mile light rail line that will connect the Metro Green Line to the Metro Expo line and includes 8 stations in the communities of Crenshaw, Inglewood, and Westchester. So the next slide shows the projected closure map from March through May, and it's pretty consistent with what we've presented before. We're continuing with the ongoing individual block 21-day closures through Park Mesa. And then we've also added in some closures for some of our bridge work over at Aviation and Imperial, where we are connecting to the Green Line. We've been progressing our work. We're completing our bridge work. And as we remove the false work, we'll have some localized night closures and one-day closure at Imperial. The next slide shows our progress at segment C. This is where our 3 underground stations are located at the north end of the project. I'm happy to report that Harriet, our tunnel boring machine, is continuing as scheduled, and we expect her to complete her work at the end of March. And we will be planning a celebration for her retirement party sometime in early April. And as far
as for Harriet's career, how long is that? Did she have a long career?
Well, I'll say this is this may be just part 1 of her career. So she's retiring from the Crenshaw LAX project, but there's nothing to say that she doesn't decide to get a second job later. So this is she was a brand new tunnel boring machine just for her project. It's not uncommon that tunnel boring machines are refurbished and used later. And given with the other projects forthcoming,
project, but yeah,
possibly. Right. Thank you.
Tunneling, Little Tokyo, right?
Went to Seattle, is now back here in LA. So these machines are used around the country.
Great, okay.
So we're progressing our underground station work. At Expo, we're continuing with our concourse level work. And at MLK and our Leimert Park Station, we're continuing with the wall work and the bottom slab work at Leimert Park. And in segment B, that's in the area of Park Mesa, there's an illustration of our ongoing sidewalk work. Again, we do have the 21-day closures on block by block, where we have closures of the frontage roads to allow us to be able to rebuild the sidewalk. And we're also continuing with the Hyde Park Station, as well as the cut and cover tunnel from 60 to 67th. And in the next slide, down at the south end of our project in segment A, as mentioned before, we're making good progress on our bridges. And we just have some illustrations of the concrete pour that we're doing at Aviation Century, our MSC wall work, and also our Green Line bridge connection. So that concludes my presentation, unless you have any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Davis?
Wanted to ask about our business assistance program. Along the way, some time ago, we created an opportunity for businesses to be compensated for the interruption of their flow of business, and that was a program that was much appreciated by our small business community. Do you happen to have any knowledge in terms of how we are progressing as you move along the project?
So the program that you're talking about is similar to what Gary reported. We also have businesses that have applied for compensation for disruption to their business. We have over $3 million that we've issued to date, and if you want some more specific details, I think our representative is here if you would like some more details about that.
Not a problem. Thank you. I would.
Thank you. Anything further? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Ong.
Thank you, and I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Jim Cohen, for the Purple Line Extension, Section 1.
Great.
Good morning, Jim Cohen. Okay, first slide is just an overall view of the entire Purple Line extension, which is actually 3 sections. My section 1 goes out to Wilshire La Cienega Station. Section 2 brings the Purple Line extension out to Century City at Century City and Constellation. And Section 3 brings the project out to its terminus at Wilshire and Westwood VA Hospital. Second slide is a close-up of the actual Section 1. We pick up the existing Purple Line, the end of the line, which is at Wilshire Western. We have a Crenshaw staging yard. There is no station there, but we have a plot of land that the contractor is using to stage his equipment and materials. Our first station is at Wilshire La Brea. We add our next station at Wilshire Fairfax, and the final station for Section 1 is at Wilshire La Cienega. This project is 3.9 miles in length. Next slide gives you some updates on what is actually happening out there. At Wilshire La Brea, which was the first station we started, excavation started in October and continues beneath the decking. All the decking has been completed. The traffic is now running on our concrete panels. We are excavating as well as hanging some of the various utilities under that deck. Dewatering should be starting by the end of this month. At Fairfax, the pile installation has been completed. We actually started our decking operation on February 11th, and our expectations are 18 weekends to deck over Fairfax Station. At La Cienega Station, which is within the city of Beverly Hills, we've demoed our laydown areas, and we've begun the sound wall installation. Actually, one of our laydown areas, the sound walls, are complete. The other one is about halfway done, and we plan to start pile installation. This is a little outdated. It's March 20th within the city of Beverly Hills. Jet grouting, which is the fortifying of earth segments along the alignment where we have our cross passages, which will allow passengers, in case of an emergency, to go from one tunnel to the other, requires some augmentation to the earth, and that's what we call jet grouting. We've completed cross passages 9 and 10 and 8, and we're working on cross passages 4 and 5, which are heading towards the Wilshire Western connection point. Our tunnel boring machine is in fabrication, and we're expecting delivery the end of this year and tunneling to begin early in 2018. The photograph on the upper left is just showing you some of the work that's being done under La Brea. We have our pipe struts that hold the station box in place, as well as we're putting in our ventilation lines to maintain a safe environment for the workers. The lower photograph is just showing you one of our decking operations at Fairfax during the full weekend closure. This is just an overall schedule of the Fairfax station. As you can see, if you go to the third line down under decking, that's where we are right now. As soon as the decking is done, we'll start excavation. Eventually, the tunnel boring machine will arrive at Fairfax. We'll pull it through the Fairfax station and continue tunneling to the west. We have a large bar for the actual Fairfax station construction, concrete, steel, systems, electrical, mechanical, testing, and our revenue service day. A little more information on Fairfax. Again, piling was completed on February 8th. We did start the decking on February 11th. The extent of the Fairfax station runs between Ogden Street and the 99-cent store, which is just to the west of Fairfax. Station itself, because it doesn't have a crossover, it's a little smaller than the La Brea station or the La Cienega station. It's only 800 feet as opposed to the standard crossover station, which is closer to 1,000 feet, 70 feet wide and 60 feet deep. Again, some photographs on the right side showing our decking operation. Some more on the decking. Next slide is our 18 weekend full closures. We've completed 2 of the 18 already. Fairfax is broken up into 3 phases as far as those 18 weekends. Right now we're doing phase 1, which decks between Ogden, which is the extreme east end, and Fairfax. Then we'll have 4 weekends to get across Fairfax intersection, and then another 4 weekends to get the section of the station that's west of Fairfax. And we have our typical full closure starting at Friday, 8 o'clock, and opening on Monday. We have on the right side of this slide, we have the traffic action plan. We've been to the board, obviously, and we've received our phase 1 approval. Shortly, we'll be back to this board for Phase 2 for the Fairfax intersection, for that decking for that weekend, and also for Phase 3. And we will be following the same format as is requested, and we received approval for Phase 1. And that's all I have for Section 1 of the Purple Line extension. Is there any questions?
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
Okay.
Again, as with really all the projects, we do appreciate the amount of engagement that you all have had with the community, such that we haven't heard from, let's say, any new specific users, to borrow a term, I guess, from the internet. We hear from some of the same people over and over again, and those are people who are just going to oppose anything that's happening in the area on the projects. But the outreach seems to be working.
Okay. And I'd like to introduce Dan Kamari, who will be speaking on Section 2.
Good morning, Mr. President, Commissioners, Bureau Reps, Council, and Executive Officer. My name is Dan Kamar. I'm the Deputy Project Manager for the Section 2 of the West Side Purple Line Extension Project. The slide in front of you shows the alignment of the project as it extends from Jim's future terminus for Section 1 at Wilshire and La Cienega westward toward Century City. Of note on this particular project is, for the most part, the project runs mostly through the city of Beverly Hills until it daylights into the city of Los Angeles in Century City. The project is 2.59 miles and it's all underground. The project consists of 2 twin board tunnels and 2 proposed subway stations, one at Wilshire and Rodeo in Beverly Hills and one in Constellation Boulevard in Century City. The approved budget, the total budget for this project is $2.5 billion. On January 31st, the Metro Board approved award of the contract, the design-build contract to Tutor Perini OG joint venture for almost $1.4 billion. The notice to proceed is anticipated for spring of this year. It says March here. We're working right now to figure out exactly when that'll be. That's our target date, but it could be into April, as was originally scheduled. The proposed completion date for the project, the revenue service date, is scheduled for August of 2025. This slide shows the general project elements within the city of Los Angeles in Century City. The large shaded portion in Constellation Boulevard shows where the station will be, where the future station will be, as well as the excavation limits for that construction extending from Century Park East west to mid-block between Avenue of the Stars and Century Park West. The station entrance is proposed to be at the northeast corner of Avenue of the Stars and Constellation Boulevard. The other shaded regions, excuse me, the other shaded regions on this slide show the areas where construction will be staging from where the contractor will have laydown of equipment and materials and stage the general construction. And of note also at this location, the tunnels will stage from this location and tunnel easterly generally from the intersection of Century Park East and Constellation Boulevard. What's happening out there now is currently we're in the process of performing utility relocations. Right now and for the last 2 or 3 months, there's been a contractor out there working at nights from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. To relocate telecommunication lines. We're working closely with the Bureau of Engineering and the Department of Transportation with traffic lane closures and night work and closures. And we're working closely with other developments that are going on in the area, specifically the Century Plaza Hotel, which is currently undergoing a renovation and new construction, and Westfield Mall, which is currently being renovated and upgraded. This work will continue probably through the end of March, immediately after the telecommunication lines are relocated, the gas company will be moving into the streets and relocating their lines, and there will be additional relocations after the gas line. The next slide shows that, excuse me, the general schedule for the project. We're in the process of completing the supplemental environmental impact statement, which should be completed later this year in September. As I mentioned, the advanced utility relocations are going on currently. This bar shows that work continuing into 2020. It's a little misleading. Actual construction work will probably continue for the various utilities through the end of 2018, and then after that, there'll be a significant amount of what's called cable pulling and splicing for the telecommunication lines, for AT&T, for water and power work. That has a very small footprint of work that's required in the field. So the major construction for relocations, we're only looking at until the end of 2018. Procurement has completed, and as I mentioned, notice to proceed is expected imminently. And as soon as the notice to proceed is issued, final design will start, and construction is scheduled to begin in early 2018. This shows a very long bar for construction. We don't have the contractor schedule just yet for us to be able to break it out for the board. But as soon as we get the contractor schedule, we'll be able to break it out by activity and have a better indication of showing you how the work will be completed and how impacts to the street and the businesses in the area will be impacted, and what we're going to be able to do to mitigate those impacts. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
You know, I don't have any questions right now. I mean, you'd think we have a lot, but I really don't, in the sense that, first of all, let me just say that the amount of coordination, and I know it's only going to get more complicated, but the amount of coordination that must be having to happen between Metro and, the last thing I want to do is complicate that process, between Metro and the Westfield development and the Century Plaza development, not to mention just a quarter mile or less away regarding the development in Beverly Hills at the old Robertson lot of the Waldorf Astoria or whatever that development too. I mean, all of that coordination that you all are working with, just congratulations and more power to you.
Well, thank you. We currently.
That's an amazing feat for us collectively in partnership with you all and everybody, all the stakeholders, to get this one done.
We have a good relationship with the stakeholders, and everyone's trying to succeed, so it's working very well.
In the middle of one of the busiest sections of the city between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 9 p.m. I mean,
that's right.
Yeah. All right, thank you. The oral report will be received. We appreciate it.
Just to wrap up, just one more minute.
Sure.
We've given you slices of the projects over these last few meetings, but I just wanted to give you some statistics.
Okay.
On Crenshaw now, we're over 60% complete, believe it or not. Regional Connector is now over 30%. Even PLE1, the first phase Jim's project, is now nearing 20% complete. So you're right, it's a mammoth task of coordination, and of course we appreciate all the help we get from the various city departments. But I do want to give you some assurance that we are moving forward. We are disappearing more and more below ground, and so therefore the interface with the community will gradually reduce, and certainly it already is doing on Crenshaw, apart from on Park Mesa Heights. So with that, thank you for your patience.
Well, and by the way, just to add, to pile on a little bit more on the compliments. I mean, look, you guys, I think we met since Measure M, and we said congratulations to you all. But there's a reason that the voters voted at 70% on Measure M. It's because of the confidence that they have in Metro, and the fact that all of these projects are happening at the same time, and film production is at record numbers. It's all great stuff. It's a historic time in our region. Thank you all.
I agree. Thank you
for the partnership. We appreciate it. Mr. Campos, have you cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your patience today.